Good afternoon and welcome to Keough's Corner. For those of you who've never heard of Keough's Corner, this is a television show that we run out of the Easton Public Schools to provide information to people at home about the kinds of things that we're doing within the schools. And really it's intended to kind of send those messages home that we can't send home in backpacks necessarily, but there's a lot going on in the district from time to time, and obviously we want to let people know. So I will run these programs as often as I can, but my goal is to shoot for every month. So this is the first one of the year. I have two wonderful guests. Chris Keough is our principal at Parkview Elementary School, and Wes Paul, our principal at Oliver Ames. So welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Great to have you.
And maybe just actually is a great opportunity to just kind of talk about the opening. How did it go this year?
I was just talking to Wes actually before we started the program. I mean, knock on wood, we've had very smooth openings.
Great.
I think it's been very smooth. I know at Parkview School, we transitioned our pre-K through 2 kids in very smoothly. We've had hardly any major disruptions, no crises.
Mm-hmm.
And teachers are hitting the ground running. I mean, we've got through our baseline assessments and building communities within classrooms, getting our routines down, and we're learning. I mean, we're already have full agendas, and kids are going through their routines successfully. So we've had a great opening.
Fantastic. I love coming out to the schools, but it's especially fun to see the really young kids when they first come to school. Yeah. So I was in the cafeteria a few weeks ago with Chris and watching these kids come out of the lunch line, 5-year-old children, babies, with their lunches. Very serious, very, very serious business.
Right. It's always good. I think the best part of our day at our level is when they're coming off the bus or out of the cars, they literally run into the building. Yeah. They're excited.
That's awesome.
So
that's great. And how did things go at OA, Wes?
Great. We had a wonderful start. We began actually before the school year on August 26th with the annual voluntary freshman orientation.
Oh, excellent.
We have a half day. I think we did it August 26th, that Wednesday, and we have a keynote speaker. I think you're probably familiar with Ed Garrity.
Sure.
Ed's probably nationally ranked as one of the top teen young adult motivational speakers, and he really challenges the students to dream about where they want to go, which is kind of in sync with what we talk about a lot in terms of beginning with the end in mind. And after that, we have a panel presentation of teachers and students giving them words of wisdom, and then we give them their schedule, which is probably the biggest reason most of them come. I think we had all but 20 students who were probably on vacation at that half day. Yeah. And then they take a tour of the building, eat a lunch, and get to walk around, find their locker before the school year starts. So it's a nice way to transition the freshmen in. And then school kind of began with everything in place. It's been a really smooth opening. Classes are appropriately staffed and appropriately sized, and people are happy, kids are happy. So it's been good. We had our back to school night. We had a new program that I'll talk later about called Bridge to Success. We had our senior graduation rehearsal / field day last Friday, helping them understand the importance of beginning with the end in mind as seniors and setting the tone for a good year. And so it's been really exciting to get back into the swing of things.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry I missed the opening. I mean the kind of graduation rehearsal that you do with the seniors right at the beginning of the year. That was a wonderful event last year, and I love the idea of really kind of setting certain tones, really, at the start of the school. It's such an important time where you have everyone's attention. And so today, actually, I'd like to speak with you both about the strategic plan for the district. And as you know, because you've been involved in the process, it's been going on for a while. We've been talking about it for a long time. And basically, for those who don't know what the strategic plan or a strategic plan is, essentially it is the kind of the goals of the district. This is where we're headed. Kind of stop, take a look at where we are and what our vision is for the future, how we're going to get there, and what we believe in. So in our strategic plan, we have the several steps, really, the vision, the theory of action, the core values, and the strategic objectives. But I'm wondering, as we went through this process, is it similar to what you've done in the past when you did strategic plans? Because Wes, you've been here for what, 16, 17 years?
17.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that what's I think very important about this process has been your transparency in the community and trying to get a good sense of what the hot items are from a people's perspective, and then sharing them with the administrative cabinet and having us all wrestle with those ideas and try to prioritize them. It has happened in the past, but it hasn't involved the cabinet level membership wrestling with the ideas and prioritizing them in mass. It has always been a select group bringing it back, which happens a lot. I think it's just been a very inclusive process, and therefore a great deal of ownership on all of our part to make sure that now that we've identified these major concerns or major initiatives, that we all shoot toward solving some of those issues.
The plan seems really grassroots to me. I mean, that's valuable. I commend you for coming to our schools, sitting with teachers in the lunchrooms, listening to them for the first 6 months you were here. The teachers are right in the trenches. I mean, they're the ones who really have their fingers on the pulse of the real needs of the district and where we need to go. I feel like this plan speaks to the wants of the teachers. It meets the needs of our kids, and I know you spent a lot of time meeting with parents and those in the community that maybe not have kids within the Easton Public Schools. All of these stakeholders, I think, are very well represented in the plan, which makes it real. And I echo Wes, it was gratifying as a principal to have 2 days over the summer where we spent a majority of our time talking about vision, mission, big boulders, strategic objectives, action plans. It felt like we were really getting at the heart of what the district needs. We spent less time with more managerial type things, and so I'm confident that this plan is a plan for all of us, and it was developed with all of us.
Well, I appreciate that, and I have to say, sometimes we as leaders, learn how to do things from having gone through negative experiences. And too many times I've been through the experience of building a strategic plan where basically we are told it was a very inclusive process, but it sure didn't feel like it from my perspective. It felt like very much top-down, the agenda from the central office, and that was it. And I really believe that these plans are only as good as the people behind them. So if people believe that these are worthwhile initiatives, if people are hearing the very things or seeing the very things that they talked about in there, then they're going to feel some ownership for it. So I feel good about it too. So part of this process of building the strategic plan was in fact having the vision, and the vision we really just fine-tuned, basically, trimmed it down, cut out the fluff. Let's just talk about what it is we're trying to do. And our vision is, in collaboration with the community, the Easton Public Schools will provide an intensive focus on the whole child. That means all facets of the kid, and advanced programs to inspire each unique learner to attain his or her fullest potential. I think as a parent myself, that's pretty much all I can ask from the schools. That's what I'm hoping for.
I'm glad you emphasize whole child too, because we all know that children aren't ready to learn and ready to achieve at their greatest potential until they feel like they belong, that they feel respected in their community and welcomed. And so, that brings in the whole social curriculum, which in my mind should be of equal balance of the academic curriculum, because when one is out of balance, problems happen on either side. So that's that goal, that vision of balancing that social piece with the academic piece is very much clear in our vision, which I think is a good thing.
And I'm sure you've noticed it as well, Wes, in a school of close to 1,200 kids. They're not all at the same place.
No, not at all, but making sure that we give the message that we've been instilling, because if you look at our I resonate with the concept of mission and expectations and strategic plans based on the NEASC experiences that we've both been through at the high school level, that we do value every child and that we do have a responsibility for educating each to their fullest potential. And the social emotional component to a child is perhaps if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we do need to address them as social individuals before we can get them performing at the levels academically that we want them to. And so having that as a foundation to our district-wide vision and mission is very important.
Well, I have picked up on that in both of your schools. It's partly why I asked you as my guest that, in fact, having a sense of belonging matters. That's the impression I've gotten from visiting your schools. And going back to my own research, my own dissertation was really about student voice, but I prefaced it on that same principle that at the lowest rung of the ladder is a need to belong. It's just a fundamental human need to belong. So I think the Easton schools are really doing a nice job with that. I want to jump a little bit to the core values, though, because core values are, as well as I do, you can go into a car dealership, they have core values. You can go down to Roach Brothers, I'll bet they have core values. You can go just about anywhere and they have core values. And so it's very easy for those to be viewed as something that are just insignificant, really, just nice words on a piece of paper. And we have settled on 4 core values: academic excellence and equity for all, cooperative and caring relationships, respecting and valuing diversity, and commitment to community. So what we're saying is that these are things that are going to drive the way we do business. Is that right? Is that how you see it?
Absolutely, non-negotiables. And I think while we have very proud schools within Easton, I think there's a lot more that connects us than divides us. And I think these core values above all, is something that your child, when they enter kindergarten, can expect through grade 12, regardless of the building or school or the program that they might be in.
Yeah. The core value component to the schools is so enjoyable when everyone embraces them and understands them. Similar to your experiences at the high school level, when you have a set of core values in your mission statement that you're charged with living out. I at my school will bring that to my student body every fall when we have our opening meeting and say, listen, these are our core values, this is our mission statement. If you ever see me deviating from this, if I have plans that don't connect with this, if I have an interaction that doesn't resonate with respect and doesn't resonate in your mind with our core values or the district core values, you need to call me on that. And likewise, when we have those interactions, my expectation is that you're going to live to these expectations. And that really does solve the dynamics of interactions that sometimes can get out of control. So it's nice to have these at a school level, but it's also nice to have them at a district level. And when you take a look at OA's core values, we have 7, but all of them are captured within that 4. And then there's a few more that are there as well. But it's going to be wonderful for the community of students to come through the district and have those from kindergarten on.
So, but all is not well in the world of education. And I don't want to paint the wrong picture. I've worked in a number of different systems, as have both of you. Perhaps not for the same amounts of time, but we've both seen, we've all seen the kind of universal challenges in education, particularly these days. And one of the challenges that really frustrates me is the use of social media. And the reason I bring this up is because these core values, they're not just for us. These core values are for the Easton school community. This strategic plan was developed by the Easton school community, not by the central office, not by the building principals, not just by the teachers, not just by the parents or just by the kids, but the Easton school community. And so if we're saying that one of our values is we're going to be cooperative and caring, we're going to have cooperative and caring relationships, or we're going to commit ourselves to community, Where does bashing on Facebook fit? And I'm frustrated by that. I know that you both know that, but this is something that is critical to us to say to the folks at home. We are educators, and that includes all of us. So how we carry ourselves, you as the high school principal, you as one of our elementary principals, me as the superintendent, how we carry ourselves in public settings, and that includes on things like Facebook, sets an example for the youth in this town. So if people choose to say really mean-spirited or negative things about others on Facebook, that's like going down to the town common and yelling it out for everybody to hear who drives by or holding up a big sign. And I really don't think we should be carrying ourselves that way. I think one of the sad things about what's happening in our society these days is folks, frankly, are not using discretion. Discretion is the better part of valor, as they say. And using discretion, you may want to say something. Something might really bother you, but it's just inappropriate or hurtful to say it.
Right. We tell our kids at the high school, the whole concept of pause before you post, and getting them to really truly understand the importance of take a second, and before you hit the enter button and you post whatever comments you want to post, is it something your mom would be proud of? Is it something your dad would be proud of? Is it something that you would be able to defend in the face of anyone that you respect? Or is it something that perhaps you're stating out of frustration and hoping that you never really have to be confronted by the individual that you're saying it about? And if that's the case, that's probably not in your best interests and or the community's best interest, because we're trying to build each other up, and we're trying to, certainly I agree that we are open to criticism, and we should be able to have conversations. I think we're all on the same page if we want to get better. And the best way to get better is to take criticism and to analyze it, and if it's accurate, work at correcting it. But taking the route of anonymous and or somewhat less than confrontational postings is difficult. I'd rather just have conversations with people and at the end say, listen, let's work on this. Or I think we're going to have to agree to disagree. This is why we made this decision. This is why we're moving in this direction. So that divisiveness that we're talking about is something that we certainly want to make sure our kids understand how caustic it can be for a community.
Well, maybe as a society, we're learning from the top too. And in our own government, we're seeing a lot of this backbiting going on and these kinds of tactics. But we're charged with putting the best possible teachers in front of children. And generally speaking, teachers have to have feelings in order to be good teachers. They have to be able to feel empathy and put themselves in another person's shoes. They have to be somewhat sensitive. And I can tell you, as a former building principal, I can think of countless times that teachers either left on a regular basis crying because of mean-spirited things that were lobbed at them or aggressive statements that were made to them, or even left the profession. So I think what we're talking about here on the core values is committing ourselves to these things. And so we're going to hold each other accountable. And I am also going to hold people accountable right up to the central office, across the board. And so I ask folks to join with us on this initiative, and you'll see on their new website that our core values are running right across the front page, right smack dab, you can't miss them. So they are very important to us.
In my experience, and I have been in several districts, I think when our values become our actions, they mean something. When they're just on a nice document like this or on a poster in a lobby, they don't mean anything until they become your actions, how you conduct yourself through your actions, not just your words, on a regular basis. And I think it's important that, as we're building these core values with our students, being transparent, making sure our parents understand these core values and they know they can help us model these values with their own kids.
Of course.
Because even at a younger age, an elementary age, kids are constantly watching their parents even when they don't think they're watching them.
They're the number one teachers.
Right, and they, even though they may not be, a first grader might not be Facebook savvy, they can hear those conversations in the kitchen about teachers or about things when you're upset. I just would ask parents, if they have an opinion or a thought to share or a problem, our teachers are as accessible as ever. Go to the classroom teacher first. They're more than competent for dealing with the problem. I know our principals are all extremely accessible. We all have the interests of the kids in mind, and we will meet you. And I think modeling that for your children, I think, sets an incredible lesson for them. When you have an issue, you don't just bash the person in your kitchen. You actually address it to the person, have that difficult conversation.
Right.
Even if your child is not a part of that conversation, they see you having it. That's an enormous lesson, I think, for kids.
Hugely important, and it's really, all of our work really boils down to relationships and communication. So one-sided communication doesn't work very well. Relationships that aren't respectful don't work very well. And but at the end of the day, I've heard it said, and I really agree with it, that if you're not outraged when your core values are violated, then they're not core values. So they really should. I don't see how anyone cannot hitch on to academic and excellence and equity for all. I mean, I think that's a good thing for us to strive for, and it's a reasonably responsible thing for us to strive for. Who wouldn't support it? Being cooperative and caring. That's, we should be doing these things and really committing to these things. And if we're not outraged, then there's a problem. So I'm excited about those. So as we move through the strategy, we really boiled it down to, and this was based again on all these meetings and conversations, but really boiled it down to 4 categories that we want to strive to address or work on in the next 4 years. The first one is family and community engagement. And we've said that we're going to build transparency through improved communication, better use of technology, establishment of a family and community university, and strengthening of relationships with community partners. So this is really about engaging the families who are so important to us. We're lost without our families and parent support. We're lost. So they're critical to us. The next one, ensuring the social and emotional and physical well-being of all Easton students grades pre-K to 12. We want to deepen our focus on student well-being, both social, emotionally, and physically, to ensure program enhancements, curriculum development improvement, and faculty support in these areas. Knowing what we know, how many kids are struggling today, the pressures on kids today. Society's changed, and I heard through these conversations with you guys and teachers and kids and parents that this is a real worry. The prescription drug use, the number of kids being hospitalized, the number of kids struggling with just social settings and the changes that have come about because of social media and the challenges with being social.
Right.
All of that is draining on the kids. The third one that we're focusing on, resource efficiency and attainment. We're going to evaluate our district practices and protocols for managing human and capital resources and secure funding to ensure that all students are receiving the educational services they need in the most efficient and productive manner possible. So this is something where we decided we need to concentrate on how we use the money we get. Are we using it as efficiently and effectively as possible? And do we have enough? And where we don't, can we find some? So that's really what this is all about, and I think it's a good one. And again, this is something that came up a lot, and that's why it made its way, it kind of surfaced to the top. These are the things that rose to the surface. Advancing student achievement was our 4th strategic objective, and we want to provide an unyielding commitment to meeting the unique needs of all students through the strengthening and expansion of programs and offerings that will prepare all of our young people for life in the 21st century. So, I don't know about you guys, but I think these are pretty cool goals. I love them. And after these goals, we have our strategic initiatives, which we've renamed priorities, because initiatives is a word that gets thrown around a lot, and I think it's losing some of its punch, frankly. these are really priorities for us. These are things that we want to go after. And so are there, as you think about the strategic plan, you guys are more familiar with it than most people, because we've had those conversations about it. We've actually talked about how these things will take place and what they'll look like in action. Are there any that have, I'm not going to go through all the initiatives because I think it would take too much time. This is, by the way, posted to the webpage, so it's easily accessed. But can you talk about some of the initiatives that you think you'll be focusing on in the next 12 months, for example?
Yeah, I mean, when you read through these, a lot of initiatives come into mind, to be
Sure.
honest with you. But the one that actually is underway as we speak would be, sometimes I think the best initiatives cross multiple goals.
Yes.
And some of the ones I'm thinking of really could fall under any of those four that you mentioned. But in terms of family and community engagement, community partnerships, I know we as a district have made efforts in the past year to establish a relationship with local colleges and universities, such as Bridgewater State University, Stonehill College. And we've also been working on our STEAM instruction and implementation. STEAM,
Can you tell, yeah, I was
STEAM
gonna
is an acronym for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics, which are all subject areas that I know have been around for decades. But the shift here is really how they're taught and building more opportunities that for students that are more open-ended, that sort of simulate real-world type problem-solving experiences where kids are given a problem in a set of materials and they have to create something or to solve the problem, which is a lot of trial and error, a lot of perseverance, a lot of grit, a lot of working together with different people, which touches upon many of our core values as well: caring and cooperative relationships, academic excellence, respecting and valuing diversity. When you pull a group of kids together to solve a problem with an open-ended answer, that's what STEAM is. And I think it touches upon a lot of these values we're talking about. So one of the ideas that are underway, I know at both at the elementary level, is working with these colleges and universities to bring either their professors and or students into our schools to work with teachers to build experiences that involve more engineering, math, science. And in my world, it's at the elementary level. So we have, I know at Parkview underway now is a STEAM elective program where we're creating 30 different STEAM-based electives that we offer to our kids on a Friday afternoon to give them that sense of choice and ownership in their learning. And we're pulling in not just Bridgewater State people, but parents with expertise in science and engineering. Our teachers are all involved in an elective. So you have this entire community coming together for this one initiative.
That's awesome.
And, the kids benefit. And,
That's fantastic.
it's exciting to, the ultimate goal with this, is really just to build curiosity. I think at the heart of STEAM is really just building that sense of curiosity about the world. Because I think if you can make a child curious at a younger age, they're more motivated to learn and be successful.
It's funny you should say that. The running into school, they've done research about how kids at the earliest age, they do run into school, but somehow along the line, we lose that enthusiasm. And maybe it's a function of age.
Maybe.
But it also is important for us to remember that the wonder of it all is kind of what makes it fun.
Right.
So I think that's fantastic. So now, and if I remember correctly, you are connecting Bridgewater State students
Yes.
with our students.
So
they
Bridgewater State is running 6 sections of this elective that they created called Growing Up Wild. And it just addresses many different areas of physical and sciences and life sciences. And so I think there were 13 Bridgewater State students involved. They're pairing them off. Each pair is running an elective. So we have 6 sessions. That's going to affect 50 kids, 10 kids per session. And, when you put a college student in front of an 8-year-old,
They listen.
that alone is powerful. And then to get them into the sciences and things that they might not regularly be talking about during the school day is just awesome.
Well, a tip of the hat to you and to the other administrators who've gotten on board with this, Chris, and also to Fred Clark, the
Right.
new Bridgewater State
Right.
University president,
Right.
Easton resident.
Right.
Fred's been fantastic and working with us, setting up meetings that we were all together in
Right.
his office to speak with the highest people at Bridgewater State to talk about working together.
Right.
This is a classic example of, in fact, community and collaboration.
And I know my colleagues at Center School, Moreau Hall, and Richardson Olmsted are all embracing this connection to community through STEAM specifically, and doing various enrichments that their PTAs are being involved with too. So now you're bringing in parents.
Nice.
You're setting purpose. So I mean, each school has their own ways of building this, but I know it's happening and in different and exciting ways. So
Nice.
it's great. We just put this is still technically in draft form.
It's still in draft form.
And many of these things are underway now.
That's awesome.
So it's very exciting.
That's great, Chris. Thank you. How about at the high school, Wes? What do you see as any of the priorities, strategic priorities that you might be targeting in the next
Well,
year
I think
or
under
so?
family and community engagement, and if we kind of take the four individually, that for us, one of my areas of assessment within the school was taking a look at my parents of special education students, and beyond the college relationships that we already have and will continue to develop with Stonehill and Bridgewater State, one initiative that I worked with my special education department is what we're calling Bridge to Success, which is we've had our first meeting already with our parents of special needs students with an intentional approach to making sure they understand we're on their team. We're trying to work with them and the challenges that they have with their students, and that open line of communication, the intentional meetings with them over the course of the year will, I think, strengthen their understanding of what we're trying to do, how we're trying to help their students understand their disabilities and find coping skills with that disability, not just help them with schoolwork, but really strengthen them as individuals for lifelong learning. So that's an initiative that really does speak to the community of special education parents. And then I think, when you look at the concept of community engagement, one of the things that we're looking at doing for next year in courses is reinstituting a course called Local History.
Nice.
And local history was taught for years. It was initiated by Hazel Varela, who was a legend in department head in the South Shore of Massachusetts in general in history, and still very active in our town in the Historical Society. And then Ed Hands, likewise, who followed Hazel and taught under her leadership. And now Matt Auger,
Yes.
who's my department head, and I are really sitting down, and we're looking to bring in both a civic course and a local history course that can become either a mandatory course within the scope and sequence of our students going through high school, or an elective. The reason I talk about mandatory is we're really trying to wrestle with one of the initiatives that we have under NEASC, which is increasing our heterogeneity within our core curriculum.
Yes,
And one of the ways for
I'm
that
not
to
sure
do that.
people understand what you mean by that, heterogeneity.
Heterogeneity means that when you're evaluated by an association like NEASC, New England Association of Secondary Schools and Colleges, they want to make sure that there are a number of courses within your program of studies that allow students of all ability levels to intermingle.
So they're unleveled.
Unleveled. And so this course in local history and civics would be an unleveled senior level course that all of our seniors would take, that would give them a foundation in civics, which doesn't get covered in U.S. history as well as we want it to, or doesn't get covered in some of the AP offerings that we have, as well as that local history that I think everyone who lives in this town and works in this town has a great appreciation for it. And we have some curriculum that's vibrant, and we have some teachers who are now at the level where they're ready to embrace that. So that's another way of us, and it will certainly have community involvement because of the personnel that I mentioned earlier and their connections within the town. So it's going to be fun.
It also speaks to the goal of advancing student achievement.
Absolutely.
So,
And exciting when you have common plans.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exciting to hear Wes say that, because at the second grade level, we just developed the Town of Easton unit that all second graders across the three schools are doing with the help of Ed Hands and Hazel Varela. I know our second graders all now take a tour of Easton at the end of the year. They learn about the map of Easton, our resources. And when you have plans like this, you just create connectivity.
I
And
agree.
I think that's only benefits our kids, because they're going to get a taste of that local history in second grade, and then continue it on as they go through their education within Easton Public Schools.
Well,
Very exciting.
it's one of the things that, really jumped out at me when I came to Easton is that there is a strong sense of community. And of course, in any community, you have your camps and people have differences of opinions, and that's normal. I think it would be pretty boring. Life would be very dull if we didn't have that. But the fact is, we've also kind of, in Easton, if you ask me, made this commitment to, living together and embracing that which makes Easton special. So this is more infusion into kind of continuing what was created long ago, a sense of community, a sense of unitedness that is not everywhere. That is not a given in every community. And it's a beautiful feature of Easton, and I'm psyched that we're part of it. We're part of kind of maintaining that commitment to community for the future. It's awesome. Very cool. Now, I know we could go on and on. This is a exciting topic for us because it's what we like to do. We like to lead. We like to lead and bring people forward for the better benefit of kids and society. Unfortunately, we're out of time. So I want to thank you both really for everything, for the work you're doing for the kids in Easton, for being on this show, for helping me with the strategic plan, all the hard work and time that people don't know that goes into your work. I really appreciate. I also want to make a shameless plug for our new webpage because, again, it is the same website, easton.k12.ma.us, and this is prominently posted. Again, it's in draft form. The school committee is taking one or two more looks at it, and we believe we will have it finalized in the next 2 or 3 weeks, so it'll become an official document. And we encourage people to look at it, to really take a few minutes to look at what it is the schools are focusing on.
And I can say that I know from hearing, we have many parents out there that may have a child at one school and another child at a different school. Before they had very different looking websites, and it was difficult for parents with kids in multiple schools to know where things are. Right. I think one of the big efforts of this new website is to sort of uniform the schools and the site structure and appearance. So if you have whether you have a child at Parkview and a child at the middle school, if you're looking for a date or an event, you know where to look for. It's the same, very, very consistent layouts with each site, which I think is more convenient for parents.
Well, I'm hoping it will be user-friendly to people. I like the fact that it's built with handheld devices in mind. That is what people use nowadays, more often than not, to check things out. That it has the ability to connect with Twitter so that they can see your feed right up front, Wes, or mine, and yours is, you have a lot of followers. How many followers do you have?
Almost 3,000.
3,000. So if you send a message out, a lot of people are going to see it. And so now that's front and center on your page. The District 1 is on there as well on the front page. We have scrolling calendars, these Google calendars. We have employment opportunities. I mean, we are linked up with School Spring, so when we post something to School Spring, it's there. These are nice features, and it's not perfect. It's not perfect, that's for sure, but we're excited about it. So I encourage people to check it out, and I thank you both again for joining us. And
thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Good luck with the rest of the year.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.